I'm here to formally explain why NA is behind, why NA is likely never going to catch up to the rest of the world in League of Legends, and I'm not trying to paint a pessimistic picture here, but there's a lot of problems that we need to solve. One of which I'll answer from chat right away, is why am I against the Korean mentality of 12 hours a day of training? Because it's not healthy in any capacity. You're going to burn yourself out so quick. And I understand the culture is different there, where there's a lot more pressure on you to succeed in that regard. And there's a lot more pressure to play for that amount of time and put that amount of effort in. But the reality is, that's not how we do it here in America. You can if you want to. You can grind for that amount of hours, but the reality is we value work-life balance way more here. I don't know if you agree with me on that, Paul, whether you think that, you know, is the American work ethic lazy in esports, or are we just not practicing smart enough?
No, I think the my big issue is this exact same with the Korean mentality. It's too much like expectation for people to be playing that long. And also, I mean, it goes right back to what we said last time of the Wonder example, is you don't have to play that much to be good at the game. So I wouldn't force kids to be doing that all day. I do think it's good to play a lot and to practice a lot. I just think 12 hours a day is kind of unhealthy, especially in an environment where you're not doing anything physical at all. These kids need to go outside at some
Yeah.
point.
Like, there are benefits to literally doing anything else other than playing
Mhm.
games. Like, you should realistically, in my opinion, be playing a maximum of like 9 hours a day. And that's not only just playing, like, it depends on how much obviously you're working on, like, drafting and out outside of game perspectives there, but I that is not one area where I say America's behind. I'd say that's actually where we're ahead. Are we utilizing the time that we spend practicing appropriately? No, and that's one of the issues that I will definitely get into. But uh, I want to start this off with the most talked about issue. So, when it comes to North America struggling, as I've laid out here in terms of the order priority from highest to lowest, and I'd separate it because this is based on who can fix these things. Obviously, personnel, somebody like Bjergsen's not going to be able to fix high ping solo queue. That's not his role. That's on Riot and that's on the game. The gaming industry in North America is just general cultural things, things that America specifically has and traits that we have that I don't know if we can fix, but there are major impacts to this. And personnel is obviously just people. I mean, that's probably the most easy to fix the probably the easiest aspect of fixing all this. But the first one I'll start off with is the one that everybody talks about, the one that pros beat to a pulp. I get their point, but when it comes to high ping solo queue, does it suck that pros are playing on 60 ping out in LA versus pros in Korea, pros in China, and other countries having less than 20 ping consistently? Yeah, it does. Like, there's no hiding that. But is that a solution that Riot can and should fix? Can they fix it? Yes. Should they fix it? I'm going to say no for right now. I don't think, if we're looking at this in terms of a business, okay, you have to take a step back, put yourself in Riot's shoes here. Riot has to make monetary decisions that are not only in the best interest of North American League of Legends, but also in the best interest of the entire profit and loss that they have to run on a consistent basis. The cost to move the servers to Chicago is not a cheap one. The cost to potentially have two servers of both NA East versus NA West is also not a cheap one. And do you have the people to sustain that? Right now, we 100% don't. Now, whether you think that we can grow from that is a matter of personal opinion. I personally don't believe that we can, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. But Paul, I want to kick this to you because I've said a lot. High ping has been the most talked about issue when it comes to North American League of Legends for years. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you have to follow the Rocket League method, basically, is all I can think of that works the most. We've seen it tried and true that you can have servers in different areas and allow players to pick which server they want to play from, what region they do. But I don't see how Riot or I don't see Riot doing that, to be honest. I think it's a good idea. I think it would be something worth trying, but Riot doesn't seem open to it, and I highly doubt they ever do it because it makes honestly too much sense, and this company hates doing that,
Okay,
to
here's
be
the thing
honest.
though, and I don't want to come off as a Riot shill and a Riot defender, but I'm going to be the person that does look at the profit and loss because at the end of the day, we companies have an obligation to their shareholders to maximize profit. While they also have an incentive to make us happy, if they can cut corners and not make us happy while still making more profits off of that and without losing a significant amount of fans, that's their first obligation. Fiscally, they have to. They work in a capitalist society. You have to do that. Otherwise, you're going to fall behind everybody else. Realistically, I'm not saying that. Well, I can't really say anything because I don't know the cost behind this, but I can't imagine having that many servers and that many locations with the ability for people to choose where they want to play and how they want to play. I cannot imagine that's a cheap solution at all.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, it won't be a cheap solution, and that's a good point. And honestly, the capitalism point is really good too. They have to keep it sustainable. And also going off of the capitalist thing, like honestly, what incentive is there to push in a or give it a better environment for Pro League? Because it's not like it's doing much, and the game is still thriving, like
Yeah.
globally, and the player base is going up. So I don't really see why they would. Yeah, honestly, try that hard to make NA's a little bit of NA's experience better, especially when we just want to import all our players anyways. So
Yeah.
there's
Which
that too.
I think this goes hand in hand with my biggest issue, which I'll bring up now, and this is shifting to the industry side. This is outside of Riot's control as a company. Which, by the way, this is a sticker, not a blunt. This is the thing from the bottle. I just realized how weird that might look on camera. Uh, North America is a console first region. The majority of our gaming uh, sales come from console. I don't. I could pull the stats up, but I wouldn't be able to show them effectively here on the screen. But the majority of gamers in the United States are console gamers. On top of that, of the PC base, of the PC player base, over I think it's 51% are Mac users in the US versus internationally I think it was like 27 or 30%. And Mac users tend to be less competitive. They're not going to okay, they're more competitive within the ecosystem, but from an esports perspective, you are not gaming on a Mac. That's not what they're designed to do. So a lower percentage of your population of Mac users are going to be gamers in addition to the PC base already being smaller as is. So when you add in the fact that we are a console dominant region, on top of that, we are casual in addition to being a console region. Our player base is forever going to be lower than every other region. We are never going to catch up to Europe. We are never going to catch up to China, nor even Korea. Realistically, I don't think we stand a chance at ever competing with those numbers. So any solution, any problem solving method that we want to take in regards to this specific topic kind of has to be admitting defeat. I don't. I know we've talked about this before, Paul, but is there anything you want to rebuttal on that? Is there a way that we can grow? That I'm just
No, yeah, I think growth is honestly it's almost impossible at this point. Getting much bigger than it is. I mean, it's gonna go up just because of how League is. It'll keep growing everywhere it is. It's the most popular game in the world. But it's very hard to make North America ever catch up to other regions when our player base is as small as it is. And we're just not as good. I mean, we could try to do the method that other smaller regions do, which is send the exact same team to Worlds every year and put every good player on their team. But NA doesn't really like that. We don't really love the same guy always winning and the same team always winning. And honestly, our coaching is also not going to ever push it hard enough, especially when they can't really make the small amount of dudes they have mad.
Here's the question I would have to you, Paul. Then, is there anything we can do in North America to remove the stigma that surrounds esports? Where, if, say, for example, you or I are in high school and we ask our parents, hey, or the parents say, what's your dream? And we say, hey, we want to be a professional video game player. Our parents are going to laugh at us. Is there anything we can do to remove that stigma or help improve that or speed it up or do anything? Like, do we need to focus on high school? Is like, what can we do to normalize esports in America's, because it just isn't.
Yeah, I would say you can try to keep making it more normalized. I mean, I know a couple colleges that have esport teams, and I have friends who go to them, and they kind of just make fun of them and call them nerds. So I think it's going to be hard for a while to make it grow. I think time and success would help, but obviously we're not in a good position to just start winning and show people that, look, we're winning $1 million tournaments, so you gotta love it. Kids are making money out here. They're not gonna look at uh, dudes from other countries coming here on massive salaries and say, man, that gives me hope in my kid playing video games here, because it doesn't help the case. So I think that is kind of a problem too that I never thought about with imports is like you're gonna kind of set the stigma even worse. That in America it's not really worth pursuing esports because we're just not good enough. So why push yourself too hard? And then I
Yeah.
also agree like with what Big Redbird said, the fact that it is an issue of like the way we view it on late night and all that, and in Korea that's so legitimate because I mean, yeah, our normal media is never gonna like it because our normal American media likes to do the same thing for like 50 years before they finally accept something.
I want to call
So,
out the bullshit that is esports Twitter now. I don't know if you saw, I made a TikTok responding to Bill Maher's joke on it. Obviously Jimmy Kimmel has said shit before. And
mhm.
people constantly want us to say, just ignore them, move on, we'll prove that we're right in the long term. Why the fuck do we have to wait for the long term? Why can't we call them out now? Tell them that they're wrong. I get there's going to be people that attack them and are toxic, and that, I hate to say it, but there's nothing I can do about that. But I don't want to sit here and just let Bill Maher take pot shots at esports the entire time and just be like, yeah, we'll eventually be bigger. No, he'll be dead by that point. So why am I not allowed to call out Bill Maher? Why am I not allowed to call out Jimmy Kimmel for being, quite frankly, part of the problem? Like, I know they don't see it, and 20 years from now they're gonna look back and, well, assuming they're not senile, they're gonna look back and be like, yeah, okay, maybe I was wrong on this. By then it's too late. By then we've fallen so far behind that we can't catch up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they are really pushing us back, and then also you make a good point that we're not fighting them. And I also think it's hard to fight them because right now, like the big thing in America is to always follow the most successful, and we're such a money-driven and success-driven society that like all people talk about really is football and then basketball, and you can even see it with hockey. Like hockey is a legitimate thing that you would think people would respect, but you get everyone who watches hockey, I know, gets made fun of for watching hockey because it's not cool.
Yeah.
And I'm worried that esports like is just not going to be viewed as cool, so it's always going to be underlooked. And I thought Fortnite was honestly going to break the barrier, and the fact that they couldn't break the barrier enough to truly capture a consistent audience kind of worried me for League.
Fortnite started to break it a little bit in terms of the cultural norm, and
Hmm.
it's like they did a good job of that. But here's my thing, and you're a massive sports fan, so you might be able to help drive this point home more. One of the things that I've criticized Riot for an extended period of time is not focusing on local markets, not holding in person events, going to bars, doing the things that normal sports industries have been doing for a very long time. It contributes to local economies, and quite frankly, being able to go to a bar and have somebody explain esports to somebody who looks at it and is like, yeah, that's weird, makes a hell of a difference. I say that because I've done it many times now. I go to bars on a consistent basis to watch League of Legends. I explain it to people who don't know what's going on, and it normalizes it a little bit more in their minds. If they see 15 to 20 people at a bar buying food, drinking beer, having fun in the same way that they do whenever the Pittsburgh Steelers or the New York Rangers or whatever your local sports team is, that makes a difference. It makes an impact on a lot of people. And if you can show economic impact with that as well, that's one of the fastest ways to pave your way in. Why? Because it goes back to your point on money. You're driving in value that's tangible that people can see and they can grasp. So I don't understand why Riot is not pushing all of their teams to have watch parties in major cities, or even the league itself to have LCS sponsor watch parties across the entire country. That should be number one. Even if you only get 5 people to show up to the first one, just keep doing it. Eventually, it will grow. It takes time. It takes a lot of manpower. Believe me, if I were to pull in Judy from New York City's League of Legends group here, she'd tell you the amount of time that she puts into it. It's rough. But we really can do it. Overwatch League has some really, really dedicated local fan bases, even though the game's not that big. You go to a New York Excelsior meetup, there's 100 people to 150 people there every single time.
Huge.
Every time for a game that we all consider dead in esports.
Yeah.
That's insane. That does so much for the local economy. For you, if they're going and renting out Buffalo Wild Wings and bringing them more money, arguably, than they would receive on a normal Friday night.
Yeah.
Why
I mean,
aren't
yeah,
we
I
doing
didn't
that?
know about that. Well, Riot hates the localization for some reason. I mean, my biggest example of them dropping the ball was the one time they came to the Midwest. They bought like a 3,000 seat arena in Chicago. And I was like, dude, Indiana is literally the state for hosting a massive sports event. That's our thing. And I was like, you could plan something so sick here, and people come because that's all our city is built for, is to host events. And they were like, no, we're gonna sell out the tiniest thing we can buy in the Midwest. And
Are
I
you
was like, okay,
referencing,
that's gonna struggle.
is that 2016
Worlds,
quarters?
yeah.
Okay.
when they when they came here and bought out that tiny little arena, and then they were like, well, that's just how it was at the time. I was like, yeah, but that's a terrible look for the local fan base, because there are probably a lot of people who sending them to that finals might would have gotten to stick around a little longer, to be honest.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is like huge for these local events, because local events make people want to keep watching and keep coming back and keep doing it. Like, playoff games are what you live for your professional teams in your local area. I mean, that's what I love.
Yeah.
And without those, it's kind of just not that fun. And I mean, it's like the best example I have is baseball in Indiana, not very big. We don't have an actual team. And I think that's why. Like, baseball in other states, I'll talk to people and they'll like be like, "Oh yeah, we have this local team, we like them." In Indiana, people are like, "Ah, I might watch the Reds, but who cares? Maybe the Cubs." And Riot needs to get in on that, because once you can convince people and actually go to these states occasionally, you don't have to go all the time, but occasionally going to these states, I think might help. And I don't know if that works in putting teams there, which we have talked about before,
Yeah.
and I think is huge. And you can't tell me travel is gonna be the issue for these dudes, because there's a lot of professional players in sports traveling all the time. You can figure it out. Yes, they won't be able to train as long, but that's probably a good thing. We've talked about that too.
Yeah.
Like,
It is absolutely sad and quite frankly pathetic that the LCS only travels outside of Los Angeles twice a year.
yup,
That's horrible. That's
terrible for the
absolutely
brand.
horrible. Like, again, uh, I don't want to beat a dead horse here with Overwatch, because I'm not going to say that the problem with Overwatch is that the game itself is not successful. But the way
Mhm.
the Overwatch League has marketed themselves in local areas was phenomenal. They've done a great job with that. If that game had an actually decent game, oh god, would they succeed. If you put, I'm
Oh,
sorry, I know this is gonna piss a lot of fans off in League of Legends, but if you put the Overwatch League model in North American League of Legends, oh, we'd be the most successful league in we'd be bigger than the LEC in 3 years' time.
mhm.
I'm not saying our player base would increase that much, although I think you would see residual impact. You would 100% see a massive spike in LCS following.
Yeah, because they would want to come watch their local team, and it would be so much easier too, as a fan, to get your friend to watch, because it's so much better opening to be able to go, hey man, you want to come watch League with me? We can watch the Chicago, I don't know, Chicago CLG.
Yeah,
That's terrible. But
good. Get
I would feel
get
so
CLG
bad
out
for
of New York,
CLG.
please.
Yeah,
Get them the
I would
fuck
feel
out of New
bad for
York.
Chicago. But you could say that, and there's at least a bit of region locking there to explain it to them. Now, it does stink there'd only be 10 places to put teams, and I'm sure because the way it always is like 3 of them would be in California, and that would suck. But at least you would have some states who start caring and they have games to go to. And I would drive to Chicago to watch TSM come play. I ain't flying to LA. I can't afford that. Like, I'll go to
I
see my local team come.
I if there was a New York team, one, I'd have season tickets in a heartbeat. But I'm not even looking at this from like you and I obviously would go no matter what. Like if we had a local team, you and I would be there on a consistent basis. And to Big
Oh
Red
yeah.
Bird's point, even if the play is shit, it doesn't matter if you're having a good time with friends. It doesn't. If you're chilling there having a beer, enjoying a burger, and watching Pobelter in a mid lane, you know what? You're still there having a burger, having a good time. You might be shit,
Yep.
but you're going to be way more optimistic if you can see those players consistently and just hope that things get better. Like, it's going to be so much better. Oh, for sure, I'm a Colts fan. Oh, God, Paul's a Colts fan too. God
Oh
damn it.
really?
God
Let's
damn it.
go. Okay.
Oh,
Wait, you
God.
understand? Okay, come on now. The Colts aren't that bad. I know we have no hope with once, but we're not that bad. I won't detract too much, but I'm sad though.
oh,
We are
I
pretty bad.
So actually, I need to check on this now. But I put the poll out to the New York City group here to see if people are comfortable going back to uh, in-person watch parties because obviously with New York City there's an added element of uh,
Hmm.
people possibly not being comfortable. The
Oh
poll right
well.
now is go ahead.
I was gonna say. Well, I'd say it after the poll. We're good.
9 votes currently to 1 of people being ready to attend watch parties again. So I
Cool.
have a feeling, even though that's not like it's a 3,500 person group on Facebook and only 10 people responded, so that's kind of odd. But yeah, I have a feeling that's going to return, and I can promise you I can make a hell of a difference there than I can just sitting here trying to put out into the Twitter atmosphere. Hey, watch League of Legends.
True. And like, if New York is willing to go back out and watch League together, places like Indiana, Florida, Texas would fill a place right now. I mean,
Oh
you
yeah.
bring LCS finals to Texas or the Midwest, we would have that place packed. Ain't nobody care. I mean, it's sad nobody cares that much, but it is what it
But I
is.
think you can. Here's the thing, and like I feel like a lot of the narrative around North America is that people have pretty much given up hope at this point, and because of that, they
Hmm.
stop caring. And call me dumb, call me naive, I'm never gonna stop caring. Like, do I ever think League is gonna surpass China and Korea? No, but there eventually will be a North American team that just completes the dream run at some point. It's gonna click for a month, and it's gonna work. And I just want to be around during that time.
Yep,
Like, did
because
you?
that'll be electric.
Oh, I know. Like, did you ever see Travis Gafford's video on RNG's home stadium? Like, he went to a match there and watched them live.
Mm-mm. No.
It's insane. Like, it's everything that I want esports to be in North America and more. But we're a good 15 years out from having that happen, which is sad.
Yep.
We're nowhere
I
close.
I also think a good thing about the localization would be, it would fix the import issue. Because if you give people, if your hometown is importing someone, it's way easier to get over that than me watching TSM with 5 Chinese and Korean players from Indiana.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
that's a
actually,
lot
you know what?
easier.
I'm gonna relate that to your point from the other day. You you give me local fan bases, you give me local teams, and travel to local markets on a consistent basis. Get rid of the import rule. I give no shits at all.
Yeah,
I don't care anymore. Like
true.
you want to import Dam One to New York, that's fine. So long as I can see them on a consistent basis and they're interacting with the New York fan base, and you can actually drive content, drive value, and drive names home. Because what's the biggest problem that people have with imports right now? Is that they're just another name. Nobody gives a shit about Closer or any of the other imports because they're not on camera enough. They're not interacting with people enough. You don't see them. And if they're sitting there in a studio in Los Angeles 10 weeks out of the year, yeah, nobody's going to give a shit other than the 200 people that are either in Los Angeles or can afford to fly out and go see them in person. You put them, you put the imports in general in cities where fans can interact on a consistent basis. Oh, nobody's
Oh
going to
yeah.
give one shit about the import rule.
I'm watching them all day, and I'm gonna brag about them all day, just because they're my guys, and that's all I care about. I mean,
Oh,
that's all I need.
I I the pro okay, this is getting me too excited for something that I know is never gonna happen. That's the
Regional
problem.
teams.
That's the
Yeah.
problem here. It makes me so sad. But kind of getting back on point because that was technically on point, but still. Uh does My question to you is, does having regional teams, does that increase our chances to win worlds?
Uh, well, to win worlds, I don't know. I mean, I don't really think so because, well, actually, something I just thought of just now is imagine the fights over being the Chicago team, just so you can have good ping.
Oh
That would be
shit.
huge. Like, they might all try to pick Midwest cities, to
To
be
be
honest.
to be fair, New York is only 25 ping.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So
Honestly,
we're
just East Coast. They'll
yeah,
all be East Coast.
hell yeah. Or I mean,
Yo,
okay. Now this gets a little bit complicated. Okay, you split up the servers east and west. Okay, and you
ah,
bring two more teams into the LCS and make it 12, and you put 6 on the west server, 6 on the east server.
that's sick. That would be cool. That actually would be really cool
And
because the
then
meta changes between the two conferences would be
yeah,
awesome.
so the meta would be completely different. Then what you do is you do it baseball style, where you play everybody in your conference first round, and then you have interconference play halfway through the year, and then you end the season with conference or pure conference play again. That way, whenever you go into playoffs, the meta will be a little bit different. And the thing is,
Hmm.
with a lot of these teams, even though you're on 60 ping, or like the ping discrepancies might be a little bit high, it's really not that much for them to still scrim West Coast teams if they want to. You're put at a little bit
Yeah.
of a disadvantage for it, sure, but you can still do that without problem.
Yeah, and I like what Big Red said because yeah, if you have high school kids coming to these games, that'd be kind of sick. High school kids going and watching their local team play and being like, okay, we could do this. And then imagine like, could you imagine how crazy it would be when some of these young kids, like in high school, when some East kid on the Eastern server says he wants to go play for a Western team, and how dope that
Oh,
would be? The
that
Twitter drama.
that'd be so great. And that's the biggest thing that I've said for years now. And I mean, I said this back whenever I started TikTok. It's like you need to increase the high school presence of League of Legends. You want to fix the player base. That's how you fix the player base. You make it popular within youth culture. You
Hmm.
make League of Legends what Fortnite is now. You give them places to go where friends can shit talk each other, because you can go into the locker room and say, "Yeah, the Steelers are shit right now," and make fun of each other. But you can't do that with video games unless you have like that one friend who's also a TSM fan. But nine times
Yo.
out of ten, that just doesn't happen. Like you give people that element, and I promise you, the player base thing will slowly start to fix itself. And then what you can do to layer on top of that, you can start partnering with high schools to give them better computers to possibly give them the opportunity to try these games for after school programs and stuff like that. You get, I mean, every student already has a Chromebook nowadays in school that can probably run League of Legends on at least 45 to 60 FPS, probably. That would be insane.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. The college program, I'm sorry, but college programs are not it. They're just not. It's too late. By that
Yeah,
point, it's a
college
club.
is an issue. I think college is also the reason you can't do college is because in league, like you can legitimately be a 17-year-old prodigy and just play on a professional team, and that's kind of what makes it different. And also that would help the academy and amateur scene in general. I would rather not go to the NCAA because I kind of already hate the NCAA
Yep.
with what they do. So I would just keep that in amateur. My only issues with amateurs, like our amateur scene is kind of whack. Like we don't even
Agreed.
pick up the kids in there who ball out. I
But
mean, they'll sit in there and kill people, and they'll be like, "Nah, I'm good."
imagine a scenario where spring 2022 comes around, okay, and off Luna, stop. A full high school squad comes out of nowhere. Okay, they're all challenger. They're 15-year-old kids that nobody's ever heard of from some random high school in the middle of Iowa. Okay, I think
Yeah.
Emily's yelling for me. Hold up. Are you yelling to me? Give me one sec, Paul. You fill.
All right. So that would be why TSM is the most important. We can talk TSM now, finally, because Dave is gone. I'll have no idea I did this. But the reason that TSM needs to take over the Bay Area, screw Golden Guardians, get them out of there, is because we need TSM to lead this whole thing. Their viewership drives it all. And, bro, he's a TSM and a Colts fan. Let's go. Let's go. And TSM will lead this viewership drive. They'll be our LA team. Oh, he's back. Not good.
I
Huh?
heard that. I heard the
What?
last little bit of it. The two of you fangirling out about TSM Colts.
Well, we were talking about the TSMs, or TSM is going to lead the viewership run, and they're going to save NA because when all this regional stuff happens, we'll just leave TSM in the Bay Area. Screw GGS, they're already self-inting their org anyways. They need to rebrand after what just happened today. And
I don't even think
you can
Golden
have
Guardians will be in the league for an extended period of time, but I guess that's beside the point.
no, yeah, they won't. I mean, they won't. And then you have all this regional stuff. And imagine all these LA kids balling out on TSM. I'm trying to build them a region, okay? I'm trying to make them unstoppable by just putting all the West Coast kids going there, if we're being
That's,
real.
you know what? That's fine. You know what I would take? Give me give me Steve in New
G2.
York City.
Oh, Steve.
Give me
That'd be
Steve
kind
in
of
New York
sick.
City. Dude,
I
the
would love
the
that.
fucking the multi-millionaire coming in, the Wolf of Wall Street, coming in
Yep.
to buy out and be the Yankees of the LCS.
Yeah.
I'm dead serious when I say I would become a Liquid fan overnight. Assume
Yeah.
because Optic would take a Chicago team if they could. So that, while that loyalty will be there to a certain extent, nah, I'm all bought in on the Steve train at that point. If Steve comes to New York City and just buys out everybody and just like the watch parties would be insane. Steve led watch parties would be just nuts. It'd be
True.
absolutely incredible.
New York Liquid, the what? Bay Area or Golden State TSM. I don't know how you make that name sound good. And then you
TSM
would
Bay
have what?
Boys,
TSM Bay Boys.
The LA Bay Lifers.
Yeah, I
That's
like
big.
that. The LA Bay Lifers. And then I want the double C9, Chicago Cloud Niners, because I want to go to Cloud Nine games in Chicago.
That'd be great because we could let like the story would be that they made it the semis in 2018 and they'll never make it back again for like 100 years.
Stop, stop. True, true. They
Oh god,
will
that would be so
disappoint.
good.
Oh
Uh,
my goodness.
to move this on to the final area of of
Oh
how
man.
of why North America is behind, and I put a picture of Paul's favorite person in the world under personnel, especially after today with the whole Hunter situation. But look, there are some personnel issues that North America faces that not many other regions have to deal with in the same capacity. We don't have as good of coaching, which leads to the not smart practicing that I mentioned earlier, in addition to like the 9 hour versus 14 hour to 12 hour workday. And then good old New York Wolf of Wall Street Steve trying to overpay all his players, which
Hmm.
to speak on the economics of this real quick, because I know I've seen this a lot on Twitter and I've said the same thing that yes, we are overpaying, but the reality is we're also paying market price. The market dictates how much people are willing and going to pay. Perks cost $5 million because that's what the market dictates for him. And that's not something that you can just say, hey, we're just not going to pay people that amount of money. Then no, then you won't get the players because the expectation is there. Unless the market
Yep.
crashes, we're stuck in the higher bubble era. And there's nothing we can do about that. The personnel issues definitely plague North America. They are holding us back without question, or at least hold it from the investor side. They're holding us back from arguably making a profit on the LCS, and from the lack of good coaching, that's preventing us from winning. But I I don't know how we fix the personnel side of this unless you just straight up import the best coaches from everywhere else. But then again, you're going to be paying more money, so that it's a problem that kind of cycles in with itself. Thoughts, Paul?
I definitely think with the coaching, you can import, but you also just got to start letting your coaches kind of go free. Like, actually let them do their job. Learn how a coaching staff works. That's a big thing in NA, I've noticed. They, for some reason, try to get their head coach to also be their most strategic guy, and that's not really how it has to be. You can have a head coach who coaches and then a guy who knows draft inside and out. You don't have to have one guy who does both. If those two dudes are going to work together well and the head coach understands his role and the drafting coach understands his role, then they'll work together and figure it out. Now, the issue would be when you lose one or the other. That would be a problem. But a good coach will learn the strategy as he's coaching, and they have to demand respect. And I feel like the personnel reason is why the coaches can't demand that respect. Because if you piss off your players, it's kind of just over in NA. Like, if you have the best team, you cannot talk down to your team. Like Cloud9's head coach, doesn't matter who they are ever, they're going to be screwed. Just like Reaper was, because the second you start benching guys and you start actually holding them accountable for what they do, they're gonna say they hate you and they're gonna get rid of you. The players always win in this current market because players are kind of the most important thing. It's just like the NBA. It's why the NBA is getting hated on so much. It's because only a few guys run the league, and every head coach can be absolutely gotten rid of depending upon whether or not they make their players mad or make them happy.
You're
There's
100.
nothing that the GM does.
You're 100% right there, and that's why
Yeah.
like I love the trust in Papa memes from 100 Thieves, but like there's only so much he can do. Like there's very few situations in all of gaming where the brand has more pull than the players that make up the brand. Like it's very very rare. Like even on TSM. So say like last year for example, realistically, Treats should have been the starting support for TSM over Biofrost without question. But Double
Yep.
Lift for some reason had more power and more say in that he he just overpowered it. Like that should never be the case. Treats should have been starting. If Double Lift had a problem with it, Double Lift should have been benched.
Yep. And it's exactly what Big Red wrote in those comments. Is he said that guys like our basically our clout guys or our big dudes keep like LS, Freak, Double Lift, anyone in Cove streams, to be honest, they can say stuff that will legitimately almost get dudes fired, and that blows my mind. They can just start bashing people, and for some reason, Twitter actually can make you lose your job. I mean, disregarding what Hunter Lee did, that was actually troll.
Yeah,
Some of these
that's a whole
dudes,
different.
yeah, some of these dudes should not be losing their jobs to Twitter, and they actually are, which blows my mind because it's like you can't I mean, you cannot expect every single player to play every single champion perfect, and you can make as many tier lists as you want. You can pretend like players should be able to play everything perfect, but at some point you gotta accept they just can't do that. And not even the Korean and Chinese teams are doing that. I mean, Chinese junglers, or Wei at least, was not playing Rumble, and everyone kept talking about how broken it was, and Wei didn't seem to be struggling on Udyr. So I don't really understand why NA teams are constantly telling these coaches they're not pushing their players on weird champs. And every NA meta, we act really inconfident about it and pretend like we just have the wrong meta. So the second we go to an international tournament, we try to learn a new meta, and our whole style of gameplay we've been playing for the past 3 months is completely out the window. We have no practice in this meta. We're just a worse version of whoever we're copying, and we lose. So kind of really disappoints me that our coaches are that inconfident as well. But I don't blame them because they lose their jobs for nothing at all.
I will
So
say when it comes to like that comparison with Cloud9 this year, I think it definitely made a big difference with Rainover not being there. Like
sure.
him being there over Zoom and Mithy being head coach. There's while players respect him, there's a power dynamic that exists. And no matter how much we want to try to accept or deny it, we're not going to listen to an assistant coach as much as we'll listen to a head coach in American systems. We just won't.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I think some of those drafting issues might have been solved had he been there, had he been able to have like that one on, say Perks wants to pick up, uh, Rumble in the mid lane, and or sorry, maybe the coach wants him to pick it up. Perks doesn't want to do it. Uh, Rainover can come in and have that one-on-one conversation. There's a lot more respect than if Mithy comes in and does it. Like, there's going to be a certain element of just like, but I'm the player, you're the assistant coach. Like, and that even exists with the head coach as well. But at least the head coach has a little, like, just a tiny bit more respect in that regard. At least a tiny bit more confidence from the org. Because let's be honest, who's the org gonna? If it comes down to like there's a massive fight and somebody has to be fired, who's gonna be fired? The assistant coach or your mid laner? The assistant coach
Yeah,
in a heartbeat.
true.
So I don't know.
Yeah, not a huge fan of the fact that yeah, they can get fired that easily. And it also does kind of suck that we kind of just keep cutting these dudes left and right, and it's only for the players. It is very sad. Just
Yeah,
tough to see. And yeah, I wish Rainover could have been there because I think it would have helped. Also, want to note the China's RNG's head coach
was
wasn't
also
at
not
the
there.
tournament.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's kind of depressing.
it it
Because
it was and wasn't because like here's the thing with the Chinese style. It's like they don't. It's not like they were not forced to adapt in the same way that North America was forced to adapt. So they're going to be less lenient on the coach in the same way. Uh, should Damwon have been able to beat them without their head coach being there? Probably. But I think that just speaks more to how far China is ahead as a region
yeah,
versus everybody else. That they can do it without their coach there. And the fact that you can arguably throw in FPX or any of the top four teams in China and they all still likely win that tournament, I think that speaks heavily to the region.
oh yeah, they are gonna be a problem at Worlds,
It,
and
yeah, it's gonna be
I'm
scary.
happy. I want that problem.
So
Huge China guy.
I'm gonna wrap this up before we go on too long. I just want to flip this over to YouTube then, and then just play some League of Legends for the rest of the night and relax. But is after talking about all this, what do you think we can do? Like, what is your number one priority? What is the first thing you're doing? Realistic, unfortunately, we can't talk. Like, the regional thing is not a realistic solution at the moment. Uh,
Hmm.
what's your number one go to step to fixing NA at the moment?
Fixing the server ping and getting rid of the import rule. I know that's two things, but those are. I think if you do those two things, you at least give us a chance. Because you can't fix one of those. You have to do both. The server ping has to be faster, and it has to be better for practice. And you'll get better imports too because they're practicing on good ping. And then if you don't, if you don't get imports, to be honest, currently our player base level is not good enough. We need to buy some more time for us to get actual NA players in. So do those two things, maybe we stand a chance next year. If they don't, it's gonna be a dark future.
Yeah.
That's about it.
My I'd say my number one is it's so hard. I would put my resolving the ping and solo queue issue at number 2 because I got to be faithful
Okay.
to what I have here. You need to find a way to get PCs in the hands of more people. You need to find a way to get League more popular and more common in North America. That has to be number 1. And that has to come from Riot, that has to come from the teams, that has to come from the players, that has to come from everybody. Even the fans, even the player base as a whole, we need to grow League of Legends and normalize it in American culture. It's a hard first step. It's a long first step. It's going to take years to do. Uh, put it in high schools. Put it in colleges. Put it, let teach middle schoolers, how this can show teamwork and dedication and time management and project development. Something. Get this game in the hands of more people in North America, and maybe you'll stand a chance at giving Riot a reason to immediately fix the ping and solo queue because we'll have more people playing. And maybe that will push content further, and maybe getting more people into the ecosystem will develop better coaching and give more players opportunities to take this money that investors are giving us. I think that one issue trickles to literally everything else. It trickles up, not down. And that's where it's I don't know how we do that. I don't know how much time it's going to take, but we have to start taking those steps soon.
Very true. I mean, if we can't make the average Joe like it, then honestly, what's the point? Because you're not going to have anybody watching a bunch of imports anyways.
Exactly. But thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Big Red Bird, for being in the chat. Thank you to anybody else who's watching this live or going to be watching it on YouTube. Be sure to drop a like, drop a follow, leave some comments in the YouTube VOD just to discuss it. I'll be there to just respond to a few things. But thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Paul, for being here. I kind of just threw this on Paul at the last second that I was doing this and asked him if he wanted to join in.
Well, yeah. Thanks for having me.
This Sunday at, I don't know whether it's going to be 9 or 10 p.m., I'll say it later, the first official episode of the Crossover Podcast will be recorded live on Twitch. Paul and I are going to be discussing the VCS and the LCS and the LEC and just the crossover of League of Legends across the globe, what to expect for the summer split, our expectations. Is NRG slash GAM Esports, are they going to run the VCS again? Will the VCS be better than the LCS? Catch our predictions, catch more this Sunday. We'll be there. Hope you'll be there too. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one.